Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another live stream slash recording of Hearthstone. So we've got 6 days left in the May season. It is Friday, May 26th. Hopefully it being Friday and it being a little bit later, if you can even see the clock. Man, did they not put that in the right text font? Did I ever get that friend request? No, I did not. So one of the viewers in the last stream asked how to friend me, and then they never sent me a friend request, so I'm wondering if that specifically relates to maybe he didn't realize I was on the US servers and I didn't tell him. We have 6 tavern brawls we need to get done. We need to get 5 rogue and warrior games done, 2 of which have to be rogue, and that will work well. So we know what to do to start off here. I have to create a deck. I don't want to really do that. Let's take it down a notch. There, Brawler. Make a deck using only cards from the basic and classic sets, but none of these fancy epics or legendaries are here. So make an incredibly slow, terrible deck. Thanks. Rogue, where are you, Rogue? Here you are. I tell you, every time. So, I literally have no legendaries or anything but basic cards. This is gonna be insanely bad. This is gonna be just like everything. Like, there will be no Unguru options. Everything that you may have played at the very beginning. So you're going back to classic things like Stormwind Champion, a card we haven't played in a long time. Maybe Core Hound. Maybe this one. Let's see. This one and this one. Man, some of these cards, like, we haven't done anything with these in so long. Like, here the Frostwolf Warlord ability is actually gonna play and work. That's probably gonna work. This is gonna be work. There's gonna be ridiculously small amounts of spells and abilities. Let's make sure we get the owl. Get that guy. If you have 4 more minions take control of one, I'll take that, since that is almost certainly going to happen. Yeah, this is awful. And you couldn't really do a Murloc deck. We could do Mana Wraith, even slow down gameplay. That's something I certainly played at the beginning. Wisps, things like that. Things that by far had no advantage whatsoever originally. Now all of a sudden they're gonna really matter. Let's see. Well, let's just go with this. Let's just try it. I imagine what's going to happen here is people are going to be frustrated with this Tavern Brawl just to begin, just off the bat. So maybe people will want to quit really quickly. Built a pretty late game deck there, not going for quick victories. We have kind of a weird situation with news. Like, there was a lot of game announcements that I just skipped in total. Just because I was running out of space and didn't really want to talk about games getting announced. Most of them were Japanese games that are the Japanese market anyways. And some of the sites that I watch get the announcement dates just from listings on websites, which means they're not particularly guaranteed to be accurate anyways. Do I want to kill this one? Not yet. So let's just go through the news as kind of quickly as is reasonable. That way when people start jumping on and commenting and stuff like that, we can just have conversations without me feeling the need to start one way. This will be funny. I guess I should have the knife juggler in here. So here's a weird story. I didn't get the full amount of it, but Divinity Original Sin 2 is coming out of early access in September. And apparently the reason why it's coming out of early access is not particularly because it's done and ready to be sold or it's a 1.0 product. Apparently it's coming out of early access simply because the creator wanted to win a bet with a construction company. Like, seriously?
Justice
That's the reason?
Handle it. Job's done.
So, of all the reasons to bring your game out for sale, the win a bet is right up there, if not the worst reason I've ever heard in my life. That's completely awful. That's really, really bad. So ideally, I want to steal this Void Walker.
Engaging TC-130 into dislocator.
Alright.
Justice is mine.
It is very hard.
Pokemon Go cheaters. To move on to the next bit of news as I'm trying to focus and see what I should improve upon on this Tavern Brawl deck, since I've clearly losing here. Let's see. Charge Divine Shield.
Justice is mine.
You can see that they're not really faring much better than I am with these old cards.
Tazdingo.
Let's see. Restore to. Or can I do something? I can do this and this and then kill this and then the turn. Pokemon cheaters, accounts that get flagged or specifically being locked out of getting anything but common cards. So a lot of Pidgeys in particular are showing up in the cheaters. I can almost feel a little sorry for the cheaters on Pokemon Go because there is a lot of ask in that game. A lot of ask because you have to go to specific places over and over again and check out those things non-stop. Let's get rid of these bigger taunt characters for something a little bit more playable. I wonder if I just did type in Murloc. Am I better off playing a Murloc deck? If I did Murlocs, I could do, let's see, 12 Murloc cards instead of a 30 Murloc deck. That's quite a lot of Let's see, deal 3 damage to the enemy hero. Let's come back here. Find some good cards to play. There we go. And Brawl. Yeah, so I can kind of sympathize on why people would want to cheat on Pokemon Go. Because you'd want to play a Pokemon game, like, if I kind of had the idea that I wanted to play it, but I don't go anywhere, I don't walk, and it would very possibly kill me to try to maintain the level of interaction that game wants.
None can escape my fury.
Of course, that really speaks more to me being less than healthy than it does anything. I'm sure little kids that are the target audience of Pokemon Go could handle it. And if they had a school that was a gym, although then that gets into the weird thing is you have 3 different gangs effectively, and kids go into school for Pokemon with their Pokemon Go app enabled phone is going to get them in trouble. So yeah, the whole concept kind of falls apart. It's the same thing with the game that was before that, made by Niantic. What, I can't even remember what that one was called. That
Justice is
just
mine.
requires a lot. That being said, I think Nintendo, at least in Japan, has now put out a solution to people who want to play a Pokemon game like Pokemon Go on their phone, but don't want to walk anywhere or do some of those things, and that is Splash Magikarp, which is a weird one, definitely, but it's certainly there. Loki's online saying hi. Hi, Loki. Making sure I have... I get those notifications out so people can know things are going. Even though I skipped announcing a lot of Japanese games that have been announced, the Tokyo Game Show is scheduled for September 21st through the 24th. So when that happens in a few months, expect to see a lot of Japanese games. But of course E3 will come out well before that happens too. Let's see, we'll play this. And do I have a real reason to play this? Not really, but we'll do it anyways. This Gaia 5 Complete Collection is coming to PC. That'll be interesting to people who are into that game. I do want to get into the Gaia series, but I feel like it's probably going to be an incredibly long strategy RPG game, kind of like Persona with even less good graphics. But there's certainly something there that interests people. There is a Mario Rabbids battle game that had some images leaked. Basically, I would say might as well just wait for E3 because that's almost certainly going to get announced. Anything that leaks between now and E3, you might as well just not bother paying any attention to it. Let's see. Do I want to kill this 9? Or... I think I kind of have to kill this 9. So...
I wonder.
Who are you?
here's what we do. We do this. Kill this. We do this. And we do that. And then we move forward. Netflix put out a trailer of an animated Castlevania series. And after playing the Castlevania game that I most recently played, which was an attempt at a reboot. It was more 3D instead of 2D. It's probably not even the most recent Castlevania game they've made. But seeing that game in particular and how they were trying very hard to be cinematic and tell a story, and the gameplay elements kind of sucked. I really think they probably have found their niche in making just an anime or an animated series. I guess it's not going to really be an anime. It may be inspired, but I mean, the target market is going to be worldwide. And so by my own personal definition, I wouldn't call that an anime, because I think the target market has to be Japan only to call it an anime, since anime is their word. But yeah, the Netflix series looks good, and you know, I probably will, if I ever find the time, commit to sitting down and watching it.
Is my shield.
Job done.
And maybe if they get ambitious, they'll make a good Castlevania game after the Netflix thing, or maybe they won't. Maybe this is just what I think Capcom is. Again, I think the owner of Castlevania. I could be wrong about that. Let's do this. So we need to save ourselves, so we'll do
Ready
this,
for action.
this, and this, and an
Justice
attack.
is mine.
Call of Duty World War II will have no Axis single-player campaign, which means, of course, you won't be playing as the Nazis or the other people who are on the Axis powers. You will only be playing as allies, which would be the British and the United States at the very end there. It's always important to remember and point out that the United States spent a significant portion of its time out of World War II.
Justice is mine.
Job done.
Twitch and Bandai have worked together to make a Taken 7 esports league. I'm not even sure Taken 7 is out yet. Is this the new thing, I wonder, where video games are going to create esports leagues before they even have the game released? Is that what's necessary? Very well may be the case. Alright, moving. Let's go ahead and open this pack. So you get a pack of classic cards for playing the Tavern Brawl with classic cards. No legendaries, but an epic. Probably have all those cards. Like every time I do a Tavern Brawl now, it's just 80 more dust. Well, actually, I didn't have one of those cards. I didn't have the epic. So only 35 more dust, which is a better turn of events. So where is this? Now I have 2 of these. Of course, if I had already had 2 of those, I would have gotten 100 dust. Been up to 400. Back to the Tavern Brawls we go. Just load up the chat, reload the chat, see what's going on. Just make sure. I'm gonna have to be so paranoid, I think, on this, just to see how everything works.
None can
Make
escape
sure
my
things work.
fury.
Japanese internet giant SoftBank has invested $4 billion in stake, a $4 billion stake in NVIDIA, which I guess that's good, but it's also kind of bad because I know a lot of the Asian countries, and there's been a lot of stories out there that I've just not bothered to mention, are trying to just buy profit. So they've got no company that's particularly stable or profitable that they can fully research and invest in, or that they care to. So instead what they do is they're just saying, well, we know that the video game companies and NVIDIA, which is a video card maker, makes decent amount of profit in the United States, so we don't really have to do as much research there, and so we can take a safe bet and just invest in that company and gain ownership of that company if we were too careful. If you're not careful. And see, this is the dangers. Particularly Chinese companies are trying to buy ownership in all the video game markets, and eventually they're just going to own them, and then the investors who didn't do much research in the first place and just wanted to make profit on the stock now are going to be in charge and having board voting decisions, and what gets made is going to get changed. In fact, what gets made is going to change anyways, because the stockholders and shareholders of any company are just always going to push for more and more profits. Every single quarter has to be a good quarter. Everything has to always work. And that's where you get into the exact situation we are in right now, where IO Interactive is trying to be sold, and Hitman as a game series is probably dead in the water for the next 5 to 10 years, and they've had to lay off people already. All of that comes directly from these giant mega corporations only having a financial duty to make more profit. And that's all they care about. That's all they say they can care about. I don't know if that's actually true, but they say they have this fiduciary duty, but I have the opinion that the idea of a fiduciary duty is a made-up concept. It's kind of like saying I started a religion of my own, and in my religion I have to rob banks. Therefore, I have a religious right to rob banks. It's like, wait a minute, nope. That's a strange example, but it's oddly somewhat accurate.
It is finished.
Let's see.
You win.
Another victory, good. And since Chinese companies in particular are heavily regulated, even Japanese companies have a chance of going down some strange regulations. If NVIDIA was owned by a Japanese company, there might very well be some major weirdness there. If Chinese companies owned all the video game companies, there would certainly be a lot of weirdness there. A lot of video games would change. A lot of video games we have now would stop being on sale. So we got a new guy, Gryzuko, says, haha, nice takeover.
None can escape my fury.
Let's see. It's not that last story wasn't very much of a video game related story either, and this isn't either, but they've updated the NVMe standard, which non-volatile memory extension, I think is what that stands for. Basically what it is it's a potential competing way of having a hard drive. Plugging in hard drives via the SATA 3 ports are approaching a bottleneck that is just too slow. There's just not enough throughput. So NVMe are like video cards that plug into the PCI Express slot and take up a lot more of the pipes that connect to the processor, which is what they're actually called pipes, and allow for faster connections. Now, it's
Justice
potentially
is
a little bit
mine.
chicken before the egg, because I'm not sure the RAM on an NVMe thing is much faster than what the SATA 3 connection is. They're just very barely approaching the theoretical maximum, and so it's very possible you could just have a SATA 6 standard, which or a SATA 12 standard come out and fix that. But it also kind of is a better long-term concept to get rid of a SATA controller in a PC and have everything on the PCI Express bus, because that's one less chip that you need in between the CPU. Great. Zaka, what do you think about refugees? Oh, you're gonna get me in trouble, aren't you? It's a moral question trying to be answered by political people at the end of the day. Whatever refugees you're talking about, there is arguments for most definitely, at the face of it, helping somebody who you see right in front of you needs help. That is the individual moral prerogative. If you see somebody in a car wreck and they're bleeding to death, you almost certainly would determine your moral prerogative is to help that person. But when you take the step away from it and start shrouding it, putting a veil between seeing that actual person and help, there are some other arguments that can be thrown in there, and arguments such as, if you let all the political pressure just continue in the country that's forcing people out of a country, then you're squeezing all of the good people out of big portions of the planet and leaving a Badlands scenario where entire countries, entire continents might just be full of terrible mercenary people, and as that becomes an institutionalized situation, it is only going to get worse. And so you'll have entire areas that force generations to join gangs just to survive, and people are going to get pushed more and more into having to act more desperately and more immorally just to survive in these areas that you've ignored by just only looking at the refugees. This, since I'm in the United States, is an argument that doesn't get made very much about Mexico. Mexico is a country that has a pretty corrupt government. Their police force is pretty corrupt, and there's no way to make an honest living and succeed there. So the fact that all those things happened, and they're right next to the United States, which is a little less corrupt government and has a lot more opportunity, it's really easy for people to leave their own country and decide to try to make it somewhere else, instead of staying and fixing the problems there. And so, in general, if you can help, we need to fix the multiple problems, not just the one problem. Unless we got into a scenario where the world was just severely underpopulated instead of being severely overpopulated, because that's really the only thing why we might start taking in tons of refugees, is if there's some kind of disease or something happened and we just needed more people. But most countries don't need more people, and when you bring in foreign people in any country, they historically, inherently, have not been treated right. So, So politically, to wrap up, you're getting me in trouble here. As an individual, I think most people would agree you have a moral imperative to help people that are in front of you, if at all possible, to do that. If a government is supposed to represent people, then I would say a government has the moral imperative to help people that they can help. If a government is supposed to also deal with things and do things that an individual person would never be capable of doing, such as building highways and infrastructure and such, then they also have a moral imperative in the same way to try and solve bigger problems. And that's something that a lot of government agencies, a lot of government people don't want to really do, is they don't want to try to solve problems, they want to look like they're trying to solve problems. So that answers that. Gozako says really deep. Back to the NVMe update, like these new potential replacements to hard drives, NVMe 1.3, they've added non-UEFI boot partitions, 2 of them, a main and a backup, and a self-test option, which makes the standard a little bit more robust, because now that means if you have an old BIOS instead of the universal EFI BIOSes, then these things will boot, because they wouldn't boot before at all. And now they have a self-test that isn't really much of a self-test as far as the standard, because it can be anything the manufacturer wants to test, but by default it would be a signal you would send to what is effectively your new type of hard drive and say, go ahead and check all the data just to make sure there aren't any bad sectors or anything like that. Not that there really would be bad sectors in a storage device that's all RAM, but maybe not. Well, that's going to be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another live stream / recording of Hearthstone. So we need to get 5 Tavern Brawls and 3 more Rogue or Warrior victories, and I've already made a Rogue Tavern Brawl deck, so I'm just going to stick with that and keep on playing. We may very well get everything done really quickly. Interesting chat last recording in the stream, somebody asking me about the refugees. I may have walked into getting asked a political question myself. I mostly, as a video game critic, try to focus more on the economics of the video game industry, not the politics. I mean, certainly I could try to make some arguments politically, but they're going to be underinformed and not as well thought out as it probably should be, for my taste at least. That isn't to say that it still might not be more informed than a lot of other people's opinions that get put on the internet. Let's move on with the news. Epic Games awarded $275,000 in grants to Unreal Development. Some of those went to games that have already been announced and are in development. Some of those went to newer things. Looked at the entire list, and it seemed like a nice mix and match of things. Nothing amazingly interesting, but nothing amazingly boring either. And it's, in general, I suppose, just nice to see that Unreal is trying real hard to make sure people use Unreal. You gotta invest in the thing that you license. Of course, the license for Unreal and Unity nowadays is really cheap unless you're a AAA video game developer, because they've got so many different schemes where you can, if you're only gonna make like 1,000 units in sale, you don't have to pay anything, or you just pay a percentage in sales, and then if you're making a AAA game, you buy the license completely. In an odd announcement, Neil deGrasse Tyson will show his new space strategy game off at E3. It's called Space Odyssey, and I'll be interested to see what it's all about. Because I don't know what it is really going to focus on. In general, I like Neil deGrasse Tyson, but then again, in general, I liked Bill Nye the Science Guy until more of his opinions more recently came out. I don't even know why I liked him. I remember specifically getting on a ride at like Universal Studios or Disney World where Bill Nye the Science Guy was on, and he sounded like a jerk in the recording of that, and I'm like, that was 20 years ago. And it is important to remember also Bill Nye was just a lobbyist, and he got some fame, and he's using his fame. Neil deGrasse Tyson is more of a scientist. He runs a museum. I watched his reboot or remake of the Cosmos series, which was pretty good, but then of course they didn't come back and do anything more with that, so it was 12 episodes or so of kind of long, kind of boring. Odd that his Cosmos series had some cartoons in it, animations of certain things in it. I found the Cosmos series a little light on fact for my taste, but what I really would have preferred is to probably listen to him lecture for a couple hours on the topic. So what he actually adds to, or his involvement in this game, is going to be up in the air. So over the past couple weeks, moving on to the next story, we've talked about how there's Harvest Moon is coming to PC in name, because there's been this weird split that happened apparently a while ago between the creators of Harvest Moon and the owners of the name. And so the owners of the name have been shopping out to make Harvest Moon games that aren't that good for a while, and this next one, the next game that comes out on PC called Harvest Moon, has a decent chance of also not being that good. However, at the same time, in parallel, the actual creators of Harvest Moon are putting out games, and it turns out from the article I saw, Terrible Controls have all but ruined their new game. So that game too has such problems. So it really starts to boil down to the idea of if you hear the creators of Harvest Moon, or if you hear a game by the name of Harvest Moon, you're probably better off not playing it. Which means, I guess, Stardew Valley has a lot bigger of a chance of succeeding than for longer. One of the Minecraft mods that Minecrafters that I still watch on YouTube are doing is a Stardew Valley Minecraft mix match, and I'm not sure I'm really that interested in it to continue going through all of that, but let's see. Can I do anything to save myself here? Every time, whenever a minion is healed, draw a card.
I wonder.
Let's see.
Justice is mine.
If I can survive this next turn, I can put the pressure on it. Maybe work. Bandai Namco has helped form a new HTML5 game company called BXD. It's focusing on making free-to-play games using their licenses of RBI Baseball and DBZ. So that's really not much information or helpful for the hardcore gamers, other than to say Bandai Namco is focusing on making free-to-play HTML web browser games and probably not focusing as much on making good new games, which is pretty consistent with Bandai Namco. I mean, they're the ones that come out with like Pac-Man 256 and they're just reselling the same things over and over again. Dragon Ball Xenoverse, 1, 2, 3, how many different versions of that?
None can escape my fury.
Very consistent, flooding the market with mediocre products. I would much prefer that they take their creations, their stories, and find a better way to make good games out of it. Remedy has talked about how they're now past Xbox exclusivity. So Remedy is working on 2 games, neither of which are an Alan Wake remake, which ties into the fact that Alan Wake is no longer available because of an expired license, a music license. But there is a good chance that they will go forward and grow to be a bigger company and better company. So we want to keep an eye on them. I would say, though, there is also that danger of a chance that they become a bigger, better company and then get absorbed by some place like Ubisoft or I don't think Konami would buy any companies these days, but Ubisoft, Electronic Arts, Activision Blizzard, which is Activision Blizzard is growing and growing as a company now because they're going to start with Destiny 2 they're going to start putting their games, it seems like, only on the Battle.net launcher so that they cut all Steam games out of it. I am kind of fine with Activision Blizzard putting their games only on the Battle.net Blizzard launcher, but I really wish they would have just command console launch commands so that I could put these games into Steam a little bit easier. I suppose you can add a non-Steam game easily to Steam, but when I family share the account information and memorize all of that, none of that crosses over. So if I bought Destiny 2 and then wanted to family share my account to somebody, then Destiny 2 wouldn't go over. The login to my Battle.net account wouldn't cross over. If I wanted to recover all of that, I'd have to have 2 passwords, 2 logins, and all of that extra hassle. But I also get the idea that they don't want to make Valve richer and richer because they want to keep the money themselves. And you know what? Valve hasn't been particularly the best at keeping Steam modern and updated and running and smooth to navigate. It's very difficult to find new games and things.
I've got a huge car. Job's done.
Amongst all the mess. So there are some valid criticisms, I think, against Steam, but Battle.net in comparison, it only has 5 Blizzard games on it right now. So they've over filtered there. And I only play Hearthstone, so I'm only playing one of them right now. Maybe I'll eventually get around to the remakes of StarCraft and Diablo and get up to like 3 or 4 games. I probably won't play Destiny.
Reporting for duty.
Speaking of that, there was a WoW update that was mentioned in an article, but as somebody who doesn't play WoW, I don't really see a good reason for me to talk about it.
I've got a huge car.
Justice is mine.
The game Rime came out, and I talked about Rime about a month ago or so, maybe a couple months ago, where it was originally a PlayStation exclusive, and then it went from an exclusive to non-exclusive, and I was talking about how that probably means there's a lot of problems with the game and it's not that good. It looks really pretty, and it still looks really pretty now that it's come out, but the two reviews I've seen so far, both of them are not very happy with it. The puzzles are obtuse, the pathfinding is almost non-existent, so you're randomly wandering around. Just not a great game at all, which is a shame. Certainly. I'm gonna hold on to this and instead do this.
Justice is
and this.
mine.
Job's done.
I really wish Rime came out and was a surprise success, but the fact that it was getting no advertising push at all, very few people were talking about it more than just the average amount of this is the announced date and this is when it's out. That's what you generally should get for all games. Is the announced date has been announced, everybody should say that, and then it's out now, and here's our review. 2 pieces of news, and that's it. But you'll see lots of games push for more advertising, you'll see commercials, you'll see other actions taken.
Tadingo! Yes. Handle it!
Justice is mine.
Speaking of that, I have started watching GameSpot on YouTube, and GameSpot just takes trailers. Like, they took the Netflix Castlevania trailer and re-put it on their website. They just re-uploaded it straight. And I don't know if that puts them in a content ID situation sometimes, and they just don't care because they're GameSpot owned by CBS. Or if not, I mean, you legally do have a fair use claim to use trailers and advertising promo material, because that's what it's designed for.
Well played.
But very few YouTube channels that I watch actually take and make that effort
Justice is mine.
to take that material and put it on their channel. And frankly, I think it would probably just irritate my subscribers. For as few as I have, like, I think it would be very irritating if every now and then I just took people's put trailers up with no commentary. I'm not adding anything to it. In this instance, this one instance, because it's promo material and specifically labeled as promo material, you don't have to do that. But I don't think that would build a channel that would be very interesting. and it's not like I've ever seen on any of the trending videos, trending tabs, channels with just trailers. I see the original publishers
Well
trailers
played.
sometimes catch up. So for the next movie, maybe. But that is something I could do if people are interested. I'd have to get a lot of feedback for that though, if people did want to see trailers. And it would just come up very randomly. See, we only need 2 more victories and then we're done with everything, so I'm trying to rush through this. Oculus Rift now has full room scale tracking, which I think means that the Rift and the HTC Vive both have that. So the only ones that really wouldn't have that is probably the PlayStation VR and things like Cardboard and Samsung Galaxy VR. Full room scale tracking certainly adds some abilities so to stop you from walking into walls and just, you know, misnavigating yourself. However, I'm still very firmly of the opinion that the VR is dead in the water, and it won't be undead in the water until it gets really cheap. It gets very, very ubiquitous. If we saw that somehow the Project Scorpio gets announced at E3, I assume it will be announced at E3, and it comes by default with VR, and it's $350 or less, that would be amazing, and that might start us down that path. But then again, it might also just be something like the Wii. Like the Wii had its Wiimotes for a long time, and we don't use Wiimotes today in as remotes on TVs. We don't use Wiimotes as game controllers. The Joy-Cons are different from the Wiimotes enough that they still aren't being used the same way. So just because something gets introduced and it might be very popular at the time and it might actually be a better way to interface with some things, it doesn't mean it's going to catch on. Here's a kind of the couple of news stories are completely pointless, but I put them on here. Like Mass Effect Andromeda has an Apex Mission 8 that promises Quarians, but who really cares? Like, how can you be happy or even excited about Mass Effect Andromeda anything when you already know the company is putting it on the shelf? I heard an argument that they're saying they're putting it on the shelf so they can make a second reboot real quick because they feel that they possibly feel like it's just Mass Effect Andromeda failed, but they can still do Mass Effect other games. But until they announce the next Mass Effect, or which I suppose to get out of this mess, you would not actually want to announce it. You would just want to stealthy release it. So if in 1.5 years to 2 years they came out and said, here's the new Mass Effect thing, it's a reboot of the reboot, we're just going to ignore it. You could, I suppose, wow, somebody I know just hit rank 10. I suppose you could just call it Mass Effect 4 and continue the story from the previous game in the main galaxy, or maybe you try Mass Effect Andromeda again by just going to a different galaxy than Andromeda and just go to yet a third place that's not Earth. I think you have to call it 4 though and just go like
That's
that.
not a valid target.
There you go.
Hit it very hard.
Far Cry 5 was announced. You play as a custom character who's the sheriff deputy against a Montana cult/militia group that has pretty much complete control of an entire fictional character, fictional county in Montana. We got a free victory here, so we might as well take it.
Justice is mine.
We're getting dangerously close to the last call, so if anybody wants to play me or anything, make sure they've sent in the friend requests. The links are down in the description. I play on the US server, so get that set up now, because I'm barely, at this rate, gonna have 2 recordings. Let's do this. The main concern that we're gonna have with Ubisoft making Far Cry 5 is 50%. Is it gonna just be another Far Cry? And remember, we also had Horizon Zero Dawn, which is kind of a more interesting Far Cry-esque game. And remember, Assassin's Creed is coming out, and it's very similar to the Far Cry games. All the Ubisoft games are very similar. And we had Far Cry Origins, or whatever it was called. That was the Far Cry game that came out about a year ago in the past, and then Far Cry 4 was about 2 years ago. So it's got to do something a little bit new, a little bit more interesting. It's got to keep people's attention and make people want to play this. I've just today, my Borderlands series started airing, and I'm still doing the DLC of Borderlands because I took a little bit of a break. And as I'm doing the last bits of the DLC for Borderlands 1, I'm thinking to myself, this is the last time I'm probably ever gonna okay, Loki wants to play. Loki always wants to play, of course. So when we wrap up, maybe this recording, we'll start playing in a few minutes. We'll see if you're there. Then, but so yeah, as I'm playing Borderlands 1, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I don't think this is probably the 6th time I've played Borderlands 1, and I just don't think it holds up anymore. And I feel like that's probably going to be how a lot of people feel about Far Cry 5 too. Is that they're just going to be like, we've played 4 other Far Cry games in recent history. Are we ready to play another one? And some of those old Far Cry games aren't worth playing, so like if I was going to play them, I'd probably skip up to 4 and just do the latest 3 Far Cries, and that's it. The other 50% danger, of course, of doing a US-based cult/militia is it is certainly going to be dangerous if they don't handle it well. And I don't think Ubisoft has 100% been successful on handling the story well. They very well may insult half of the United States or more by stepping on morals and beliefs that are actually held by it. Because you could easily go wild with the idea of what they're presenting in Far Cry 5. Kind of like how Bioshock Infinite could have gone wild, because that's a cult theocracy of a city flying in the sky. You could have gone wild with that, and you could have been a harsh anti-Christian, anti-theism in general. You could have a harsh message like that and irritate a significant portion of the United States and the world. And you can also be, in the same step, Far Cry 5 could be a harsh anti-jingoism comment, which is to say anti-patriotism comment. and that would probably get the other half of the United States. So if they do it wrong, they're going to irritate everybody involved very, very badly. And if they do it right in Far Cry 5 and tell a good story, they're still probably going to irritate maybe a fourth, maybe a sixth of the population of the United States. I mean, they're starting with at least one hand tied behind their back. There's no way in a video game, I believe Ubisoft can tell this beautiful story that will be retold for generations, that everybody will love and agree with, and there will be no controversy and no things. So just on the face of it, you have to kind of wonder if they already know that Far Cry 5 is a bad game and they're trying to sell it on the controversy, kind of like the game Hatred did a couple years ago, where Hatred was getting banned and there was all these controversies, and it convinced a lot of people to buy that game, and everybody who bought that game pretty much universally said, oh, this game kind of is bad. It's actually not worth playing or owning, and the controversy was really hyped for nothing. Let's move on to the next story. Microsoft has rebranded its Twitch competitor that was called Beam. It's now called Mixer. I have never heard of either of these companies. I did not know that Microsoft had a Twitch competitor, so they've done a terrible job on informing the public. The one thing that is interesting about it, and I wish this was something you could do through YouTube video, YouTube streaming, is you can have 4 streams of 4 different players playing 4 different games at the same time with a single chat. So imagine if you were to get into a group of people, and instead of having one TV channel that was streaming your favorite game, you had 4 TV channels that was streaming 4 different games. You could quadruple your target audience right there. Now, it still kind of limits the amount you could do in full screen, so you'd have to work with that still.
Justice is mine.
Because that would be the next step, I guess, is you'd want the ability to zoom out and see all 4 of them and see the chat, and then zoom in. And that's usually when you have a video producing team that's doing that and swapping between the 4 things. I could see ESPN doing that for a lot of things. It's like, let's get 4 football games, let's get 4 or 8 baseball games going on there, where we can just switch between them. Moving on, the creator of the game Seaman, which was a really popular game, Seaman, Seaman, his name is Yot Sato, Saito, Saitoyot, has teased another sequel in the series. There's been several, not some of which didn't come to America.
Think. Justice is mine.
So that'll be interesting. Sadly, from what I hear, the reason why he's teased that is simply because he needs more money. So I don't think that's probably the best motivation ever. Let's just quickly go through all of the other things, because I'm not going to bother to make another recording. Beyond Good and Evil 3 is not coming to E3. The trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2, is almost 10 years old now. So yeah, that game's never coming out. That's a Duke Nukem Forever situation. Darkest Dungeon's first expansion is coming next month. There's a Kickstarter for the Tomb Raider suite of orchestra music that's gotten 31k of its 206,000 goal. I don't know why they're kickstarting a soundtrack for something like that instead of just selling it themselves. Destiny 2 will use hybrid servers, so they're not using the phrase dedicated servers, which confused and scared some people. But in the end, I think it's all a bunch of hogwash anyways, because you just are going to have to wait and see if the servers work well or not. Titanfall 2 has a latest DLC next week that's going to give you a new Titan, and Monster Hunter is heading to the Switch. So that gets all of the news out, except for one little rant I want to have about YouTube Spotlight promoting women producers again, because they're so desperate to have women YouTubers to the point where they barely mention anybody else. And they did that just today, and I guess that's for Memorial Day. I know Memorial Day is not till Monday, but I mean, seriously. And the weird thing there is, as far as I can tell, they're not vet women. Like, if you could find a bunch of YouTubers who served in any army for Memorial Day, and I think Memorial Day is specific to the United States, the one that's happening here. So it would have to be YouTubing women who were veterans. I'd be like, okay, you've stretched it, but you've gotten it. But they didn't even do that much. So that's something I want to write. They also promoted 3 new Elton John videos. So what that has to do with Memorial Day, I don't know either. That's YouTube's just promoting things to make money because they're getting paid to promote things. Anyways, that's going to be it for the recordings in this stream. And we're just going to see if people want to play. Otherwise, just 2 recordings, not a big deal. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Okay, we're just going to stream now, so I guess I'm really kind of sad that somebody wanted to friend me and then they didn't friend me. Let's do Loki, I guess. Since Loki always wants to play, I know he does. And we'll see if he wants to respond. I'm not seeing anything in the chat since 5:37. Let's come over to the other chat just to make sure nothing else is new. It certainly is a question if I want to respond to political questions or not. I probably shouldn't have, but like as I get to be a bigger and probably more mature YouTuber, I probably should just say I'm not going to talk politics. But I think I answered Gryzako's question as well as he wanted it answered. Very possible he was just trying to troll me too. But that's one of the best ways to deal with troll questions, is to just answer in earnesty and just answer the question as if it's being honest. One of the worst ways to respond to a troll question is to body slam the news reporter. That was a funny news story, certainly. Never appropriate to assault somebody, certainly, but I thought it was kind of ironic too that it turns out the news reporters are most upset about other news reporters being attacked instead of a lot of other atrocities that happen around the world all the time. I guess it hit a little too close to home, and that's similar to the YouTube Spotlight problem. It's like YouTube Spotlight literally needs to be, man, Loki's not coming. Like, see, I don't even know what to do then. We have a rank 20 here. We have Loki at rank 13. And if Loki's not going to send me a hanging out in the menu, send it. Am I having some network trouble? Is he having some network trouble? I don't know. So yeah, YouTube Spotlight needs to spotlight everything or nothing, and it needs to do it in a very random fair thing. And this is similar to the Creator on the Rise setup, where creators on the rise seem like they are sometimes handpicked by the YouTube Spotlight people who seem to be hyper feminist sometimes. I know inherently there's probably just pushes every day. There's probably a conversation where we need more women YouTubers, we need more of a women audience. I think there's probably a disconnection that's happened for decades in entertainment that says women will watch women, and I'm not sure if that's actually as true as people would think. Like, I think the truth is people of any gender want to watch entertaining things that they can relate to, and if it's in general true that females can't relate to sci-fi, fantasy, and horror as much as men can, that might explain why there's possibly too much sci-fi, fantasy, and horror on TV. But I don't think, I would hate to think that adult, mature women look at a TV show and go, oh, the main actor is a male, so I'm not going to watch this show. Now, certainly though, let's face it, the people who fund movies and make TV shows are kind of chauvinist. Loki says, "You there?" Yeah, I'm here, Loki. I'm slowly seeing these chats. Like your last comment just came in a minute ago for me. So I could see, in a way, that I don't like to watch Roseanne, which shocked me to death when they said that was coming back on TV. Like, I didn't enjoy Roseanne not because it's a female main character. I didn't enjoy Roseanne because it's a dysfunctional family in a downtrodden lifestyle. But in that same way, I could see people not being as easily able to relate to people who are to main characters who are not like them. A little bit. Like, I could see that show with Al Bundy. What is that one called? I know the song Love and Marriage, but I can't remember what the name of the show actually was called. I could see not being able to relate to that if you're a female. I could see not being able to relate to The Man Show if you're a female. That's a great example, I guess. But when you start to talk about shows like Star Trek 1, maybe a little bit. The first series only had Uhura, but by the time you are in Star Trek 2, The Next Generation, you have the 2 female doctors, you have the psychologist. I mean, they really bent over backwards to put emotions as something that they were going to pay attention to in that series. I hope Loki didn't have a strategy here, because I think I've just defeated it.
Job's done.
And then they continued down that route through the Star Trek series. There are major female characters in Deep Space Nine, Voyager. You might argue that in Enterprise in particular, Married with Children, that's the name of the show. Yes, thank you, Loki. Like, I've been trying for a few days to remember the name of that show. Yeah. I don't know if I could really relate to Married with Children these days, because it comes from a kind of mean-spirited comedy that was acceptable back then, that I don't think I can muster the energy to tolerate nowadays. One great example of that is, what's his name? There's this African American comedian, stand-up comedian, who was in a bunch of movies in the 80s. And he was very famous. Eddie Murphy, I think. No, I don't know if it's Eddie Murphy or not. I might be making a mistake there.
A mistake.
But his stand-up, well, let's just say it is Eddie Murphy. I apologize if it isn't. The stand-up of this African-American comedian is almost 100% homophobia jokes. It is almost 100% jokes against homosexuals and how they're gross and how he doesn't like them. And you try to go back and listen to some of that comedy, and it's like, no, I can't listen to any of that. It's like, no, this is really just approaching hate speech at this point. And I would really like to see that comedian come back and have a whole new set of jokes and do something different, but he hasn't done it, so I don't know if he can't write new jokes or if he just doesn't want to write new jokes. Which, this is very rambly rant that doesn't really mean anything. Elton John videos. I like Elton John in general. I don't know if I really like his music. I watched some of the Billboard Awards that came out a couple weeks ago with Cher, and boy, is Cher not aged gracefully at all. Like, she's 71 years old, and she's got so much makeup, wigs, and plastic surgery on her. She looks like she's 40, and she just refuses to age gracefully, which means at some point she's just gonna crack. Her face is just gonna go from looking human to looking completely awful. And when Cher sings now, it's all auto-tuned, if not pre-recorded, so I bet her voice doesn't really sound that good. I wouldn't be surprised if her voice sounds actually really awful. She's not singing really any new song. On the Billboard Awards in particular, like, she sang one song and then she came out and sang her next song, and I was swearing that he wasn't that she was singing the exact same song a second time in a row, because they sound so similar to me. Like, no joke, 5 seconds of space in between her first song, second song. I thought it was exactly the same. Here we have somebody doing clap, clap, clap. New guy, Jogi, and Loki Cat is doing the full plethora of smiley faces. Did they just add smiley faces to the chat? Is that what's going on here? Is everybody's using the smiley faces because it's a new feature? So yeah, honestly, I wish both Cher and Madonna would just kind of grow up. I know they were used by the music industry as sex objects, and they only really became famous because the music industry propped them up and put a lot of advertising and pushed their music, and their music is certainly historically important, but probably not the best in the world that was available at the time. It's a real shame now. Nobody who isn't pretty can be a musician these days. It used to be you could be downright ugly and sing really well, and your appearance had nothing to do with the way you sounded because you were just on records, on tapes, on the radio. But now, even an industry that's built around music is so focused on your appearance, it's ridiculous.
Reporting for duty.
Hey, catch!
Giddy up!
But yeah, I wish Cher and Madonna both just put on a age-appropriate costume. It can be a little bit flashy, but it needs to be refined and good-looking, and mature your language, your songs. Do something kind of like how Johnny Cash's late songs. I'm thinking of that Johnny Cash cover of "Hurt" in particular. Like sing like that. Embrace that your voice has gotten deeper through the many years that you've been singing. Try to have a different style. Cher goes the exact opposite of this. She's still wearing risque, revealing clothing at 71. More risque and revealing clothing than she was even wearing when she was in her 30s. Honestly, I think maybe Sonny Bono was the better singer of the group, and of course he's dead now. In a very odd skiing accident, skied right into a tree.
Back to your homes.
But
Mount up!
just
To battle!
like take off the giant wig and wear a normal wig. Sing songs that relate to your own time. I am ranting so much. I know this has nothing to do with anything, but age gracefully. Do something closer to what like Betty White does, where she was a comedian who played the idiot in a lot of things, and now she plays the wise old character who's still cranky and old and funny and a lot of things. Now, I have half a thought that the reason why Betty White does anything is because she's trying to do what Abe Vigoda used to do, which is the Screen Actors Guild has some weird rule where if you don't work for a certain amount of time, you lose your health insurance. So Abe Vigoda would just take any job he could get and use that as a way of continuing his health insurance, and that's a really terrible system if that is the case. I would think after a certain number of years, or just after a certain age, anybody in the Screen Actors Guild should just have a pension that pays for their health insurance and pays for all that. We don't need old, unhealthy people acting just to stop themselves from being less healthy. And I keep going back to this YouTube spotlight promoting everything, and I'm just gonna erase it. We'll see what happens on Monday, on Memorial Day, if they actually do spotlight any videos from veterans, because that'll be the ultimate kick in the gonads, I would say, is if they're a couple days later so focused on promoting women and they don't even bother to focus on the thing there.
Let me think.
on the actual holiday. And it's not even like I'm a huge fan of veterans or not. I mostly feel bad for veterans. This is funny. The chat didn't load some of that. I just reloaded the chat and lost several lines of things. And now it's back. Man, this YouTube chat does not work well. Yeah, personally, as far as veterans, I feel bad for them. I feel like most of the veterans in the United States are put in a bad position to join the military in the first place. They are either kind of brainwashed into it through family history of other people being in the military, or they're told that they have no other opportunity in their lives but to join the military, that it will pay for their college, that it will give them a career when they have little chance to have any other good careers. There is a ton of hyper-patriotism in the United States that makes the military beloved by every single side of the political spectrum. The United States is a very pro-military, very pro, I guess, violence by extension country, and they don't, and all the people that are really in the military don't really focus on the fact that of all the bad things that happen to you in the military, how you get effectively brainwashed to think a different way, how you become extremely violent prone and get PSD. Low-key, hey Rydo, what is my streaming schedule? Every 3 days is the rough schedule. I can't really do anything more than that. So like tomorrow I'll get one daily quest for Hearthstone. The day after I'll get another, and then the day after that I'll get the third daily quest and try to stream again. If I get a watch and learn going forward, I imagine I'll just stream anyways. So it doesn't stay as anything consistent, and this is 100% the fault of Hearthstone. Like, if Hearthstone just gave me a quest every 5 days, like one quest up to 5 every day, then I would stream every Friday or every Wednesday or every Monday, whatever people responded best to, I would suppose. But because, well, 5 days doesn't work either. It needs to be 7 days, so it's the same day every week. And since it isn't, since it's 3 days, which every 3 days times 2 turns into 6 days, which still doesn't equal a week. Some days I'll stream on Tuesdays, some weeks I'll stream on Wednesdays, and there's, you just kind of have to, if you catch it, know that next time I'll, the plan is to continue recording every 3 days. It's so bad. This certainly could change, however, because what could happen is I am certainly getting more viewers and more comments through streaming than I am getting through videos. Almost nobody watches or comments on any of my pre-recorded videos at all. Although I did get one subscriber today as Borderlands came out, which I was happy to see in that. And on some other occasions I've gotten some random subscribers.
Thank you.
So at some point maybe I could get a schedule down every 2 days, I guess. Like if I did every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday to stream and just did all the daily quests I had available, that would be a way of forcing some consistency into the system. But that's kind of the only way I could do it.
Reporting for duty.
let's
Reporting for duty.
fill up our board here. I don't know if I should go on with the memorial veterans things. Yeah,
This jungle.
like I just feel sorry for veterans. Like they get chewed up and spit out, and I would love to see there be a program where you could work for the government as, oh well, I don't know, a construction crew repairer or a teacher or something along that line, and earn
Battle.
a way to get free education because of that, instead of
For justice.
the U.S. government only really wanting people to be part of an organization that's built around
The battle.
killing.
The battle.
Like, I don't think it's healthy for any society to be built around that. That's what the Spartan society was like, and while that
Put your faith
sounded
in the
like a
light.
good idea at the time, it's not good for the morals of an entire culture. And eventually we're gonna
The battle.
run out of people to be angry with and find reasons to go to war with, or we're gonna make up reasons to go to war, which we've already seen examples of lots of instances
The
where
battle.
reasons for going to war have just been made up to keep profits with the government contractors high.
Reporting for duty. The battle. Reporting for duty.
Be
Like, it would be nice if we had something like a Peace Corps that was as big as the U.S. military. It would be nice if we had a day to celebrate the peaceful people in the world. The United States and its hyper patriotism and hyper military support only makes things worse, and it leads to just unquestioning obedience and dogma that is not good. Let's play this.
Reporting for duty.
Alright, Loki, I'm gonna say, since I've run out of things to talk about, if you want to do one more game, let me know, or otherwise,
I fight.
let's either wrap it up after this one, or one more.
Reporting for duty.
So, hopefully he sees that, and hopefully I see his response. Streaming schedule is up in the air. It's something I need to think about and get better at. Hey, I got a new subscriber from streaming. This streaming really is helping my channel a lot. Like, I should have been doing it as soon as it was available as an option. That being said, I don't know if it's the one thing that's going to make my channel succeed. If there is anything that's going to make my channel succeed. A lot of things have changed, and Captain Sparkles in particular was talking about how there was a survey of 1,000 kids on what job they want to have. Okay, Loki wants to do one more. That's fine. One more game. And apparently the most wanted job amongst the survey for little kids is YouTube streamer, and that's not gonna work. It's just not gonna happen. First of all, I don't know if there is gonna be a YouTube streaming job by the time kids are older, and even if there is, everybody can't have that job unless we go to a post-scarcity society where everybody just has a universal basic income, which it might happen. It'd be nice if it happened, if they pass laws that just says every citizen has a right to have enough to feed, clothe, and house themselves, and therefore tons of people say, well, now that I don't need to work to satisfy my needs, I'll become an artist and a critic. even at that rate, though, we can't have everybody be a video game YouTuber. We need more people to actually make video games. And one would hope that in a society where everybody got a basic income, you could encourage more people to go to gain education, and maybe the government would have to pay for that too. And how they pay for it, who knows? But we need people to not just be YouTubers. They need to get high school, college degrees, and be able to make new games. And
I fight.
we see enough of that it seems like that probably would happen. Like, I know it seems like a significant number of people that are YouTubers eventually either contract with somebody, work with somebody, add their voice to a game. They do something that's a little bit more creative than criticize. I don't know if I'd ever do that personally, because it feels like I would be getting too close to the people I'm supposed to be criticizing. But I could see maybe leaving the realm of being a video game critic to go make video games. But if I did that, I don't think I could ever come back and be a critic again. I think I would literally have to just say, I'm done with it. My opinion is not going to be unbiased and untainted from this point further. And I would want to make that pretty clear. Looks like I'm gonna lose here with Loki's Amara that sets your health to 40. It's hard to recover from that one. It's a decent strategy if he plays it, which his deck does seem to work to play it. He's got enough taunt and divine shield creatures to slow me down. I don't know what else am I really doing with my channel. I think one of the things I'm gonna stop doing is a tiny little thing where I was labeling the series as a date. So it would say in the notes of the playlist series 15, it would say videos I showcase between this date to this date. I'm not sure I'm going to continue doing that. I probably should, and it's literally only a few minutes of extra work. But right now my current series is not like that. And I don't think I'm going to rename playlist as a current series anymore. A lot of the things I'd like to do come right down to features that are either potentially going to be added to YouTube or features that I need to be added to YouTube. My YouTube channel is also suffering some instability for just how many videos are on it. Because I can't like search them all. It seems I've gone over the limit. So I'm trying to look at videos that are not monetized, and the way to do that has become really, really difficult. I have to search for one thing to filter it down, then I have to search for another thing to allow it to work. And in the not monetized, I'm gonna, some of the things
In the light's name.
what am I trying to say? Some of the videos I released on Halloween last year are going to not be age restricted anymore, because it's been several months. Nobody's complained about Honey Pop, even through this whole adpocalypse and all of that happening. Not a single person has complained or said anything about Honey Pop airing. So
the light.
So I'm gonna do the same with the horror games and just put in parentheses mature audience only, and that will probably get the restricted mode to restrict it, so people in restricted mode don't see those videos. And then I'm gonna turn the age gate off and turn on the advertising for those videos. And as I am probably only about 3 months away from starting to work on Halloween of 2017. When I do Halloween games in 2017, regardless if they're scary or not, none of those will be age restricted. They may have mature audience only in the parentheses in the title, and that's it. And that's how I'm just going to go forward.
I serve the Fire Lord.
Loki says they haven't complained because there's no nudity shown. I'm surprised they didn't complain specifically because there was no nudity shown. It would have been nice if somebody... I don't want anybody to complain on my channel, but it would have been nice if YouTube came back and said, one person complained, we looked at your videos, and we found nothing wrong with it. That would have been cool, but...
Well played.
that certainly... I don't want to encourage anybody to file a complaint. And I imagine very few people watch that. Loki being one of the few people that actually saw that. I spent actually a lot of time filtering and blurring out the nudity, and I need to go back and do that with Witcher 3 and just have an uncut release of some of the episodes of Witcher 3. Channel Awesome does this weird thing where I think they actually take videos, upload them, then delete the videos, then re-upload them, and that seems very strange, but that...
How many fingers do you see?
But that seems to be their business model as they try to push people to go to their website that's called That Guy with Glasses. It's kind of a shame there isn't any other games that I know of like Honey Pop that only have very limited scenes of nudity plus a gameplay style that's actually playable. Like, I couldn't do that with a visual novel. Not because there would be a lot more nudity in a visual novel, just because there would be too much reading in the visual novel. It would be too much text. That's why I'm always looking out when there is a new visual novel on Steam for one that has full English voice acting, because if it has that, and none of them ever will, because that's just not how that business, how their businesses make money, I would actually play it. But that's never going to happen. So I will say, if you do get the uncensored patch on Honey Pop, the nudity, for what little there is pretty not family friendly. It is downright hardcore pornographic. But there's not enough in it for that to be the reason to play a game. Which is almost always the case in all the sex games, is that they promise you something that they never are really going to deliver. It's just there's not enough there. If you're looking for some of that, might I suggest a DeviantArt perusal, because there you can find all kinds of animated and live action nudity that's in an artistic style, and well, is going to deliver a lot more for your time than trying to play a game. Let's see. I don't know if I can save myself from this one. Of course, I'm only suggesting that to adults. Kids, don't do that. Don't get in trouble. There was an article online about how all the kids these days are going to have a terrible life because all the parents are going to know how to put spyware and hack their Facebook accounts and everything. And so they're never going to have any kind of privacy at all. Or piracy, for that matter. Like my generation, our parents still don't know how computers work.
Embrace
This, and how much damage is this gonna do?
In the light's name.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna lose here. If YouTube, that is one thing I wanted to talk about here. We're about to run out of time though. Is YouTube has gone with this full family friendly thing, but they have in their AdWords and AdSense program special categories for gambling and alcohol that you have to opt your entire YouTube channel into, which will which requires you to opt out of the other 20 or so categories of advertisings that you're acceptable with. So you can have an AdSense account that is specifically targeting alcohol and gambling for adults. And I don't see if they decide it through their algorithm that a video is not eligible for their regular advertising, why can their algorithm not then turn around and say, well, we found out that you're talking about something, you're making a video where you're talking about alcohol a lot and you're getting drunk on the video, but you're funny, so we're not going to kick you off YouTube. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to put you in the adult category of advertising, and you'll still get ads for the alcohol that push alcohol and gambling and all of that, but you can't have ads that push Coca-Cola and toys and things like that. Like, wouldn't that be the best solution for YouTube, honestly? Wouldn't that just mean you could still make money on these videos that you need to make money? That's where I really think they should fix their algorithm to work that way, and then people would be a lot happier, I think, on both sides. The other issue is YouTube is just, like, in general crazy. What they want YouTube to be, they want it to be this TV station now. It's like they want to do full seasons and pick winners and losers, and everybody they pick are supposed to be winners, but they're turning out to be losers. So I don't know if Loki is trying to show off something. He probably is, because I haven't seen his strategy yet, but I've been mostly ranting here. This is, I think, one of his decks where he's supposed to it feels like he should be playing his quest, but he's not. And it's really, really weird and disconcerting when a significant portion of the shows that I like and I enjoy on YouTube are getting strangled out of and kicked out of YouTube in favor of things that I don't think anybody enjoys. This is the whole Vimeo issue in a nutshell, is that there's probably great covers of songs and original songs on YouTube, but you can't find any of them because Vimeo, on top of constantly content IDing and suing YouTube directly is also flooding YouTube with the official songs that then they're getting advertisements from. And this is why people go to Twitch, where like I went and watched somebody stream on Twitch, and immediately they're just playing copyrighted music. Nobody's complaining. Nobody's going to send that copyright claim, even though it is illegal, because Twitch doesn't care. Twitch doesn't make money selling music or having music videos on their service. So just to have the freedom to break the law and risk getting sued directly instead of having YouTube step in and automatically take the money away from you and automatically assume you're guilty. Just that little bit of kindness to say, look, I'll do what I do on my channel, and if it happens to be illegal, let me and my lawyers figure that out, versus what YouTube does, which says, nope, we think you broke the law, so we're taking all your money away immediately. I certainly see why people go to Twitch, just for more freedom, just for not being run by people who are trying to play some politics that you don't particularly agree with. Well, this is gonna kill me if I play this. I have to either kill this character or I can't play. Let's see. Add a random magic spell. What can we do?
I wonder.
Feel my pain.
What if I did this? And then
Job's done.
let's see what happens there. That was a sort of nice play. Of course, Loki could have won a while ago. Now that Borderlands is coming out, Borderlands is gonna go for a long time, and on top of that, BioShock Infinite and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood are gonna come out eventually, a little bit staggered. And when all of that is done airing, my channel is gonna have been airing about 3 series that overlap for a really long amount of time. So this series is gonna be a lot longer than normal. I hope people do get on the Borderlands. Loki says, yeah, it was a good one. Yeah, that play. I almost kind of want to power level some other characters in Borderlands 1 and get some people on and like stream. That's something that's certainly in the back of my head for maybe a year or two from now. But on the other hand, I think maybe not. I think maybe if a year from now I go through Borderlands 2, which probably not, probably 6 months from now I'll try to go through Borderlands 2, because Borderlands 3 is coming and I want to try to get both Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel done also.
In the light's name.
I'm running out of cards here, but
Job's done.
at some point maybe having laid back streams and just playing a little bit of Borderlands might work. Maybe just power leveling. I want to play as the different characters, because I played as the Siren in Borderlands 1. Every single time I've played it, I've played as the Siren. And I would like to play as the Soldier, but I don't want to start a new game at level 1. I'm at level 42 right now. I want to take my 42 levels and put that into the Soldier from the Siren.
Wanted.
And I
Dead
wouldn't
or alive.
be upset with playing as the fighter character or the sniper character either for a while. At least to to test it out. Not that I think too much would really change, just the action abilities. And that's kind of where Battleborn was a nice system in at least thought. Because if Battleborn was going to be the introduction of Borderlands 3, then let's see.
Job's done.
Well, I tried there. That would be rather cool if all the characters that showed up in Battleborn were the characters you played as in Battleborn 3. Loki asks about how about Borderlands 2. So the way it's gonna go is I need to play all Borderlands 2, including some of the DLC, which I've never even played before, in single player to give my criticism. And then 6 months after that, so you're talking at least a year, then I might, if I have nothing better to do with my time, which I probably will, try to get some people online. And I could certainly see Loki being one of the people that we just get online and try something different. I suppose at that point we would just have the chat online. Everybody would be chatting, not through text, but actual through conversations. It would be it would be an actual job of sorts, where we would be collaborating instead of just kind of what we're doing here, where I'm still very much controlling the streams and doing all that micromanagement. But I don't. It wouldn't be a job that paid or anything. But yeah, maybe in a year we would have 3 other people or 2 other people that we would just sit around and stream for Borderlands 2 for a little bit. It would be more than likely as a character that I either wanted the power level, so just to try to get all of our characters up to the max. So I had like a save file. And I know in Borderlands 2 there's 5 or 6 characters you can play as. And so power leveling aside, it still could take a lot of time. It would also be kind of a short experience because it wouldn't be like Hearthstone where we're just every weekend playing Borderlands 2. I don't want my channel to be one of those channels that's just always doing Minecraft, always doing Skyrim, always doing Borderlands. But it is something that's at the back of my head, but it is something also that's a year away. In all honesty, unless there's a major delay to Borderlands 3, Loki, I think we're probably talking more after I do an entire single player playthrough of Borderlands 3, and then we play that, unless Borderlands 3 turns out to be a really terrible game, which there's a possibility of that, certainly. These are all things I'm just thinking about, so no guarantees or anything like that, but I still have a ton of games that I want to cover, and I'm not doing the greatest of jobs to get all of that done. There you go, we'll play this. Just keep this guy alive. That way he can't heal himself. I'm certainly considering the fact that I have so many games for the Steam summer sale. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do there. If I'm gonna end up spending less money or spending more money. I want to get a new battery backup that has a lot more power. My battery backup battery is dead.
What
And
to do? What to do?
at some point, it would be helpful possibly to get maybe a bigger, better motor, bigger, better monitor. Not something crazy like a 4K, and even if I did get a 4K monitor, which is actually, I might get a 4K monitor just for future proofing and then just have it output to 1080p. 17 damage. Loki's not gonna let me win. I don't deserve the win, of course. There we go.
Embrace the void.
Let's see, if I had taken 2 damage to his face and then found a way to make him draw more cards, that would be interesting. But I don't know if there's not much more I can do. I have 2 light spawns, a zombie chow, and a binding heal. And I'm not sure if the Hearthstone deck tracker actually focuses on friendly games, if it counts those or not.
Job's done.
I'm out of cards.
I don't know what I'm gonna do after all these long games too. I want to play Bayonetta, and that's a moderately short game. So I wouldn't be surprised after Borderlands if in that time slot is Bayonetta. And the 7 o'clock time slot is going to be Bioshock Infinite, and I need to do all the DLC for that. But after that, I need to find a AAA game that's relatively short and not a shooter. The thing is, I'll definitely probably want to not play a shooter for a couple of months, since both Borderlands and Bioshock Infinite are shooters of sorts. And then Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. You know, probably after Bioshock Infinite, I should probably do the next Tomb Raider game. I don't see... either I do it now, or I wait until the next Tomb Raider game is about to come out. That would be the 2 options. At some point I wanted to do the DLC for the Talos Principle and replay the Talos Principle, but I have so many games I haven't even touched yet. Where do I squeeze in Borderlands 2? It's got to be like 6 months from now, and if they announce that E3 Borderlands 3 is coming out in 6 months, then that means I skipped the pre-sequel completely. So, let's see. Loki says it does count friendly games unless you uncheck it in the options. I'm gonna have to go look at the options in the Hearthstone deck tracker, because I don't know if I did uncheck it or not. I guess it particularly for me doesn't matter one way or the other. Alright, so I could have him down to 10 right now, and then he takes 1 damage, which would have gotten him down to 9. Of course, this gets him back up to... would have got him back up to 14. Like, Broken Sword 5, I think I'm gonna just squeeze in my point-and-click Adventure Time slot. right after Broken Sword 4, which is right after Broken Sword 3. So I probably shouldn't have it run that long. So I need to probably play a point-and-click adventure game in between the two. As far as the kids' time slot, that's King's Quest, and that's gonna go for a while. Haven't even begun to think about what to do in the kids' time slot after King's Quest. I think I'll probably try to cover some of the older point-and-click adventure games for kids, either spotlighting them or covering them all the way. Now I'm taking damage, so there's little I can do here. So if I heal this one, I can do one more damage to him. And let's see.
I'm out of cards.
I was expecting him to draw more cards. Now, because he found a way to put a card back in his deck, will he draw 1 damage from fatigue next turn, or will he go back to the fatigue he was at before? I'm gonna do this again. This is interesting. 2 fatigue, so I could have gotten him down to 2, but next turn I lose. No chance. Unless he can heal me. Unless Loki can heal me. Not as many people on today on the chat, but still a very successful chat. Loki is worth his weight in gold when it comes to chat comments. He's clearly very talkative. We only had 2 other people that came in here, and Grizako and Jogi, Jogge, came in to say clap, 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 and that's all he said. Oh, look, the Hearthstone deck tracker has next draw fatigues for 4. That seems new. Well, I have to get back to Borderlands 1 and recording more games. That's it for the stream. Thanks for playing me, Loki. If you're going to... Loki says, nope, it doesn't reset fatigue. That would have been cool if it did, but I guess it doesn't. That's going to be it for the stream, so that's the last comment that I'll announce, Loki. If you're typing something right now, I'll see it, but I won't mention it. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.